Hi there, I'm back. Yeah, I know. It has been a while, but unfortunately, I was not able to keep up the work with my Romanian channel and also this channel, the English one, uh, with the cars from borrowed from owners, where I only had, I don't know, some 3 hours with the car, and I did manage to up the complexity of my reviews, at least in Romanian. So that left me with little to no amount of time for the English channel. But today is quite a special day for me, at least, because it's actually the first car that I'm borrowing from the manufacturer through an official channel. I've got the car for 3 days. It's actually the last day with the car, so I was able to film the review in Romanian and now in English. I was able to do quite a lot of tests with the car and get acquainted with it. So yeah, I'll try to do the same going forward if I'll borrow some additional models from the dealerships, so I can revive this channel as well, actually. Well, what's the topic of the day? Obviously, you saw the thumbnail. It's the BYD Seal in Excellence configuration, the all-wheel drive variant. And yeah, actually, I'm pretty impressed with the car. Keeping in mind that I used to own a Model 3 from Tesla. Well, alright, it was the first gen with some drawbacks, but anyway, it's not necessarily a fair comparison with this one. But I did reviewed on my Romanian channel the new Model 3, and I know how to stack them up, actually. And one other thing, it's actually the first time I'm reviewing a car from a Chinese brand. So yeah, I came quite open-minded to see what's what, actually. And until I lay down my first driving impressions, actually I should insert some footage with the exterior of the car to let you know exactly the spec of the vehicle. Good news is the BYD Seal. Yeah, I get to finally review a Chinese brand, Chinese manufactured car, actually. And it's a model from 2025 with about 16,000 kilometers on the clock in Excellence all-wheel drive spec, which means that we do have an electric motor on front axle and another one on the back axle. The total output of those two is about 530 horsepower and 670 Newton meters, which is actually quite a lot, considering it's a medium-sized family sedan, actually. But yeah, it does weigh about 2.1 to 2.2 tons, somewhere around there. But even so, being an electric sedan, obviously the sprint from 0 to 100 kilometers per hour is done in 3.8 seconds. And they're actually quite proud of it, because there's a badge on the back with exactly this number. Yeah, alright, the top speed is limited to 180 kilometers per hour, but that's actually quite irrelevant in my opinion. At least if you're not actually living in Germany, which I'm not, even though the number plate says that. Anyway, it's an official car from BYD, so that's why. And that's why I'm also returning to my English YouTube channel, because with owners, cars from the owners, yeah, I did not have enough time to film them in English and in Romanian, which is my country, my language. Anyway, going back to the car, I do have to mention obviously the battery. It's an interesting take on that one. It's supposed to have 84 or 85 kilowatts hour gross capacity and about 82.5 useful amount kilowatts per hour that you can actually use. But it's interesting because it seems to be an LFP. LFP? Yeah, I think those are the correct letters. Not an NMC battery, which means that you can actually charge it to 100% daily. Doesn't mind that. And yeah, it also means that you can only charge it with 150 kilowatts. Okay, nowadays it's not so impressive. And the thing that boggles my mind is actually because it seems to be on an 800 volt architecture, this car. So why the low charging speed? Because of the chemistry of the battery? Presumably. Well, alright, the architecture is 800 volts, but this one is supposed to run on 550. As I said, there's the badge with the acceleration. Okay, it's interesting. They are not marketing using marketing to promote this car as a performance vehicle, actually. It's just that, the acceleration, but otherwise it's pretty normal, standard sedan. Alright. What more should interest you? Obviously it's the range, because it does have about 21 the consumption for a longer trip, and my experience in the weird trip that it does have with the last 50 kilometers, it was showing me 16 inside the city, about 19 on the highway, obviously obeying the speed limit, with a bit of VAT on top of that. But even so, it's quite efficient, to be honest, and considering that you can charge it regularly to 100%, it means that you get at least 400 kilometers out of this battery. Towards 500, even in winter time, it's supposed to have a heat pump, to the best of my knowledge. So yeah, you might get about 10% loss during the winter, but even so, it still is quite efficient in my opinion. And obviously the looks are quite interesting. It does seem a bit higher priced than it's actually in reality. The only weird parts, in my opinion at least, are here on the last window on the car. It does have some piano black, which is, I don't know, excessive in my opinion. The door seals on the bottom, the rear doors, once again, they do have some fins, some interesting design. I don't know if it does anything or it's just for aesthetics. And also on the behind the front wheel, once again, it's an ornament that is black plastic, piano black. I don't know what's up with that. It could have been a bit simpler in my opinion, but anyway, it's an interesting design. Let's take it this way. And I do enjoy the tail lights with cascading turning signals. Yeah, it does look quite premium actually. And what else should interest you? Obviously, the cargo area and the interior space. So the cargo area actually can be reached through that button, which is not so fortunate in my opinion because it gets dirty quite easily, but at least you could open it from the inside as well, or the key fob. And yeah, the opening is not all that wide. You do have to reach in there if you want to get something from the back, but the actual space, it's quite enough. This is my usual carry-on luggage, and it seems quite petite in here. About 4 or 5 of them can fit in here without a problem. Interestingly enough, we do have covering up here, which is quite rare nowadays, you have an subwoofer from the Dyna Audio sound system and some additional space on the left side, plus a huge amount of space in here, where we can find the shades from the panoramic roof, the charging cables, both for the domestic socket or for a charging station, AC charging station. And also, bear with me, if I'm gonna take them out, I can also show you we have another cubby which houses the tire repair kit and actually the cable for vehicle to load, because yeah, with this one you can actually use the energy stored inside the battery to power, I don't know, your house or some additional electronics that run on domestic power. And if that luggage space is not enough for you, with a double pull from under the steering wheel, you can lift up the bonnet and use some additional space in here. That is the frunk, or however you want to call it. Yeah, it does have an additional cover over it, but it's quite a useful amount of space, to be honest, with some padding on the bottom and some noise insulation up here. Alright, so those are the figures. Once again, quite impressive, considering the fact that they are not actually using this model, this configuration, as a sporty one, as a halo car for the brand, for the model actually. It's just a typical sedan with plenty of space for the passengers, plenty of luggage space, that happens to have a bit over 500 horsepower. It's a bit insane, to be honest, and sometimes it seems like the chassis and the wheels that are mounted on this vehicle, especially as they are all-season tires, they seem like they are not able to cope with all that power, especially as it comes instantly being an electric car. But yeah, still, it's quite fun actually in some regards, if you know what you're doing behind the steering wheel. Let's check out the Sprint actually. Like nothing. I mean, they are so proud of the acceleration of the car, they actually stick a badge on the trunk lid with the 3.8 seconds to 100 kilometers per hour. Interesting. Anyway, I talked about the space inside the car, so I'll insert the footage with that part of the review. So this is the space in the back of the BYD Seal. And yeah, I do have my knees quite high actually, but it's something typical with a premium, not necessarily premium, an electric sedan nowadays. I can stretch out a bit under the front seat, but the passenger does have to raise it to be able to do that. Even so, my knees are still high. The bench is not long enough for my taste, at least, but anyway, the space is quite deep with the front chair in line with the B-pillar of the car. I still have about 2 palms of space, and head space as well, because with this panoramic roof, I get about 1 palm above my head as well. Anyway, the materials are quite good actually in here. I especially love the material from the seats and the door cards. With some ambient lighting, some additional storage in here. Yeah, lower down the materials are a bit cheaper feeling, at least, but here it's quite soft and squeegee. You have some additional pockets on the back of the front seats, Some air vents here, an additional storage space, a couple of USB ports, and also an armrest with adaptive cup holders. Oh, and a handle, quite rare nowadays actually. So yeah, and this is the driver POV with quite a hefty steering wheel, to be honest, but with physical buttons on it. The left side controls the adaptive cruise control of the car, and you have a shortcut for the parking cameras. Oh, and another button especially for this thing. Wow. Okay. I don't know, I don't find it very useful, especially as if you prefer Android Auto or Apple CarPlay, you have to run it like this in landscape mode. It's the only way. But anyway, the cameras, the 360 cameras are alright, are good enough, but I would have enjoyed the brightness of the screen to be a bit higher. Anyway, we'll come back to that. On the left side of the steering wheel, you do control the gauge cluster and some infotainment, some of the phone or voice control of the car, whatever. Yeah, behind the steering wheel we have typical stocks for wipers and also for the lights. Tesla. And behind the steering wheel, once again, we have a gauge cluster and a head-up display. Once again, Tesla, come on. Anyway, the gauge cluster, yeah, it's not the sharpest and the contrast is not amazing, but at least it's showing you quite a lot of useful information actually. Yeah, you can change the view, those two settings. You can control the climate, the temperature through here, or the fan speed. Okay, once again, it's enough if you don't want to use the main touch screen, infotainment screen. Some information about the car. That one seems to be like a stopwatch or something like that. The trip meter with my consumption in the past 50 kilometers, or the overall trip of the car. Once again, an interesting take that you have the pressure inside each tire and also the temperature. Quite nice actually. And some additional information, plus yeah, pretty much that's gonna be it. What else I found interesting? You have an auto hold function, and it does show in here and also in the head-up display, and also the blind spot assist shows in here and in the head-up display, on top of the fact that we do have some small triangles in the mirrors. Once again, Tesla. Check out, this is how you do things actually. Yeah, also this is the region. You can set it on standard or high, but it's not high enough, to be honest, and there's no one pedal driving, unfortunately. And this is the driving mode. You can switch it to normal or eco, and it does remember the setting from for this setting at least. Anyway, to continue, the interior, yeah, it does have interesting materials, quite premium feeling actually. Physical buttons for the windows and the outside mirrors, some additional space in here on the door card, another one here which is actually covered. So are the sun blinds, I think that's the word, right? I'm not pretty sure. Anyway, here is a bit weird. It seems like should have something else, but it doesn't. And you also control the light individually. You don't have an additional control for all the lights inside the car. Anyway, the mirror is dimmable, but it does have a weird frame, some piano black of sorts. Anyway, what else? The air vents are weird, Tesla-like, because you only control them through the infotainment screen. You don't have physical flaps for that. And as I said, the infotainment screen all right, it's useful enough. It does have some quirks, some, I don't know, interesting decisions were made. You control the climate unit through the screen, and also the air filtration system, which is nice to have. The seat ventilation, the seat heating, or the steering wheel heating are obviously done through the screen as well. You can deactivate the speed warning here in Europe to this command, or up here there's another shortcut. But yeah, anyway, maybe you'll use Android Auto and Apple CarPlay, and that's it. Oh, another interesting thing, if I put the turn signal, let's see if I'm in drive. Yeah, it does open up the cameras, which is an interesting take. I enjoyed it, especially as you might not curb the wheels with this system, but when you turn off the turning signal, it does take a bit. And if you are using Android Auto or Apple CarPlay, that time is even longer, and you might miss a turn if you're using the SatNav through the CarPlay or Android Auto, which is a bit annoying. But maybe they'll fix it with a software update, I don't know. Lower down we have a couple of phone chargers, some additional space actually, with another couple of USB ports and a 12-volt outlet. The gear selector is right here. You do have and the parking button here. You do have a start-stop function, but you can turn on inside the infotainment screen the setting where if you climb inside the car and press the brake pedal, the car turns on, so you don't need this button actually. The hazard lights, the driving modes, the volume rocker, some shortcuts for the climate control, and the auto hold function, as I mentioned, the blind spot assist, and the driving mode for winter actually. A couple of cup holders that are adjustable, and this one can be made deeper. Some armrests with an NFC logo, because if you don't want to use the car key, you can use a card that is actually stored in here. Well, we'll check out the glove box as well, which is covered and pretty large. This is the card. You can use it as the car key. You tap it here to start the car, and you tap it on the driver's side mirror to unlock and lock the car. Behind the armrest we do have some additional storage space. Yeah, that was an interesting take, to be honest. Once again, it is similar with the Model 3 from Tesla, but it seems like they took the ingredient lists from Tesla, and they said something like, yeah, we'll do that, add this one, that one, no, we don't care about it. But let's improve that, let's improve this, let's improve some other thing. Okay. And considering the price, which is pretty similar with Tesla, once again, quite a complete package actually. Not perfect, obviously. There's nothing perfect in the world, but considering the fact that they are only starting to make real cars from I don't know how many years ago, it's quite impressive. Let's check out an EQE, which nowadays it's my own car actually, not that one. I have actually the 53 AMG that was only a 500, but yeah, I switched from my old Model 3 to a Mercedes. It was an interesting take. I wasn't necessarily looking for a Mercedes EQE, but considering the price, it was a good deal for me. Anyway, going back to the current vehicle, first impressions while driving. Well, the steering feel, yeah, it's quite light, but precise. Again, for a medium-sized sedan with no sporty intentions. It does weight up a bit if you put the car in sport compared with eco or normal driving mode, but it's not necessarily something that I would brag about. Actually, I do enjoy driving the car in sport mode, and it's interesting that it does remember the setting from the last time that you drove it. It doesn't reset to normal. But I like it because the region it's a bit stronger, even though we don't have one pedal driving, which is a bit unfortunate. And also you have a stronger acceleration, or at least the feeling of the acceleration is stronger. The power comes a bit quicker compared with normal driving mode, or especially compared with eco. So yeah, I'm used to electric cars. I do enjoy that instant power, so I like to drive it in sport mode. Other than that, the suspension actually copes with bumps quite easily, as you can see, especially if they are longer bumps. Those shorter ones that are more often, they tend to upset a bit the suspension, but I don't know, I may put it on the wheel sizes as well, because we do have 19 inches on this model. I guess it's the only one that you can take, if I remember correctly. Anyway, otherwise the brakes, yeah, you do have to use the brake pedal, but you don't feel when it's regenerative braking or frictional braking, so I don't mind it. I would have enjoyed one pedal driving, as I said. And also, I don't know, the noise insulation, it's good, considering the fact that we have frames over the windows. I tend to suspect that it's a bit better than a Tesla, and we also have double glazed windows, at least on the front part of the vehicle, not on the back. But weirdly enough, I don't think that the windshield is acoustic, because I do get a lot of noise from the wind in front of the driving position, my driving position. I don't hear the mirrors as well, but the windshield, yeah, it's a bit noisy. I feel like it's a missed opportunity for BYD to make the cabin even quieter. Yeah, I don't know what else. As I said, it's not necessarily a vehicle to take on the racetrack or actually through some bends a bit more excited, but it's not trying to be, after all. And I think it's a good mix. Most of the time, come on, you're gonna use this vehicle. Oh. That was a bit of a loose end, but I'm putting it on the tires. They are Michelin's, but they are all season, and we have almost 30 degrees outside. So yeah. Anyway, most of the time you're gonna use this vehicle like your typical run-around family car, which might help you in an overtake, considering the power, but otherwise, no, it doesn't try to be a supercar killer on the bends. And I'm okay with that. I don't mind it. What else? Regarding the maintenance, it's barely non-existent because it's an electric car, so you only have to replace the cabin filter, and I suspect the HEPA filter because it's a purification system inside the AC unit. And probably the tires and the brakes might need some service, some replacement rather sooner than later, because it's, after all, quite a heavy car, a bit over 2 tons, and also with quite a lot of power. So during acceleration you might use the tires more than you otherwise would in a typical internal combustion engine car. All right, some pros and cons, reasons to buy or to skip this model. Well, I'll go for reasons to skip it, because actually there are not that many of them. I know the infotainment screen is not that bright, especially today as we do have the sun on top of us, and I have to wear sunglasses. I would have enjoyed it a bit brighter than this. Fun. But other than that, my only complaint actually is regarding the seat. As I am a bit over 1.8 meters in height, I would have enjoyed it to be with a bit more support for my thighs, or an extension that I could adjust in this sense. On a longer trip, and yeah, you could actually road trip this car without a problem, I'm probably gonna get a bit tired because of the seat. But other than that, not really much to complain about. You do have to get used to the infotainment screen, to some of the controls, but it's not bad. I mean, actually, I'm quite impressed. For around 50,000 euros, it's not bad at all. And actually, that's a pro argument. It's a good deal. You get a lot of car with good materials, especially inside the car. I really do like the feeling of the material from the door cards, the seats. It's comfortable enough, it's insulated enough. You do get a lot of kit as standard. Good range, good efficiency actually, because it's not the whole story to have a humongous battery if your efficiency sucks, actually, because it's, at the end of the day, it's gonna cost you a lot more to recharge the battery. So yeah, as I said, all in all, I'm pretty impressed with the car. So if you want to compare it, I'll leave, I don't know where's gonna pop up that window with the review of my former car, the old Tesla Model 3. It's not in the same league, as I said, but you could get some sense of comparison between the models. Until next time, thank you for watching.